The drama surrounding Caitlin Clark and Cheryl Reeve didn't just unfold in front of a national audience, it exploded. Live on ESPN, in what can only be described as the most defiant power move in WNBA history. It was bold, calculated, and completely unprecedented. The 2025 WNBA All-Star Draft was expected to be a simple, celebratory event. Players picked their squads, fans cheered, and the league rolled out another heavily managed public relations moment. But what no one, especially not the WNBA, anticipated was that Caitlin Clark would hijack the entire script with one audacious, history-making statement. On that stage, with ESPN's cameras rolling and the basketball world watching, Clark delivered a message that no one could ignore. "I don't care if this is in the rules, I'm trading coaches." Let that sink in. This wasn't a playful joke or a lighthearted jab. This was Clark drawing a line in the sand. A defiant rejection of the league's forced pairing of her with a coach who had spent the past year publicly undermining her achievements and dismissing her impact on the sport. That coach was Cheryl Reeve of the Minnesota Lynx, architect of Team USA, and one of the loudest critics of Clark's meteoric rise. And, just like that, in front of millions, Caitlin Clark made it clear, "You don't get to disrespect me in public and then coach me in private. Not now, not ever." But to fully understand the shockwaves this sent through the league, you have to rewind and look at the months of tension building between these two women. The seeds were planted long before that draft night, long before Clark's now legendary coach trade. This was a slow burn of animosity that had simmered beneath the surface for nearly a year, an unspoken Cold War between a generational talent and a deeply entrenched power figure in women's basketball. When Caitlin Clark first entered the WNBA, she didn't just bring skill, she brought a revolution. Ticket sales exploded, arena attendance skyrocketed, television ratings hit record highs. In a league that had long struggled to capture mainstream attention, Clark wasn't just a breath of fresh air, she was a full-blown tornado, a walking, talking, game-changing phenomenon. But not everyone was thrilled. Behind the curtains, figures like Cheryl Reeve seemed increasingly uncomfortable with the attention Clark was receiving, whether it was envy, traditionalism, or a desire to maintain control over the league's narrative. Reeve began making her feelings known, sometimes subtly, other times blatantly. During press conferences and on social media, Reeve questioned the overhype around Clark, made cryptic remarks about certain players getting too much attention, and seemed to go out of her way to minimize the rookie's impact. The tension reached a boiling point during the Team USA Olympic roster announcement. Clark, the most popular women's basketball player in America and a lock in the eyes of fans, was snubbed from the team. And who was the head coach of that Olympic squad? Cheryl Reeve. It didn't matter that Reeve wasn't the only one involved in the selection process. The optics were damning. The message was clear. The league's brightest storettes, most bankable name was being left out, and Reeve, with her long history of shade and passive-aggressive commentary, became the face of that decision. When asked if she had second thoughts about leaving Clark off the Olympic team, Reeve gave a one-word answer: no. No elaboration, no reflection, no acknowledgement of Clark's achievements or what her presence might have meant to the sport on a global stage. Just a cold, dismissive, unapologetic no. And for many, that was the final straw. So when Clark took the stage at the All-Star Draft and calmly announced she was trading Reeve away, it wasn't just a headline, it was a reckoning, a public declaration that the era of silent obedience was over. That players, especially ones with as much influence and value as Clark, would no longer accept disrespect from coaches. With that one moment, Caitlin Clark didn't just make a move, she made a statement. Sitting beside her was Nafessa Collier, her fellow All-Star captain, who didn't hesitate to accept the trade. She took Reeve as her coach, while Clark pulled in Sandy Brondello, the Liberty's head coach. It was a clean swap, but one that shook the WNBA to its core. ESPN's Malika Andrews quickly went off script, confirming with the league that yes, the trade was permitted. It had never been done before, but the WNBA, caught completely off guard, approved it in real time. It was as if the league itself had to suddenly rewrite its own rulebook to accommodate the sheer gravitational force of Caitlin Clark's will. Think about what that says. In a league where tradition and structure have ruled for decades, Clark had just bent reality to her liking. She didn't ask for approval. She didn't wait for an official process. She simply stated what would happen, and it happened. The WNBA didn't lead the change. They followed her, and that is the essence of why this moment matters so much. This wasn't about coaching preferences. It wasn't about a quirky all-star twist. This was about power, respect, and accountability. It was about a player who had been dragged, doubted, and dismissed, finally saying, enough. It was about taking control, not just of her team, but of her narrative. Sandy Brondello's response was exactly what you'd hope for from a professional. I got traded as a coach. This is awesome, she said, clearly thrilled to work with Clark. I get to coach Caitlin Clark and Sabrina Ionescu in Indianapolis. What a great opportunity. She understood the moment. She embraced it. She didn't resist the shift, she celebrated it. Cheryl Reeve, on the other hand, had no choice but to swallow the bitter pill of her own making. She sat there, stunned, watching her coaching assignment get stripped away by the very player she'd so casually dismissed for months, and she had to accept it with a smile, knowing there wasn't a thing she could do. That's the part that hit hardest for a long time. LEAGUE, insiders. For years, Reeve had wielded influence like a blade. She built powerhouse teams, commanded respect, and played a major role in shaping the league's competitive culture. But in this moment, all of that authority crumbled under the weight of a single player's resolve. Caitlin Clark had fired her on national television, and the WNBA couldn't stop it. What followed was a deluge of online reactions. Fans erupted in support of Clark, praising her for standing up to a coach who had long exemplified the league's toxic gatekeeping. Memes flooded social media. Gangster Clark started trending. Clips of her announcing the trade with icy calmness were replayed across TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. It wasn't just a viral moment, it was a cultural shift. Clark had proven something essential. She's not just a player. She's not just a scorer or a brand ambassador or a ratings draw. She's a force. One that can change the trajectory of an entire league with a single decision, and the implications of that are massive. For decades, professional sports leagues have struggled with the balance between management, authority, and player empowerment. In the NBA, we've seen superstars like LeBron James orchestrate entire team rosters. In the NFL, players like Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes are starting to demand a say in organizational decisions. But the WNBA, that's new territory. And Clark just claimed it. The ripple effects of this moment will be felt for years. Other players, especially young stars, are watching. They're learning that silence isn't the only option, that you don't have to tolerate backhanded compliments and strategic exclusions. That if someone, even a revered coach, treats you like an obstacle rather than an asset, you can push back publicly, effectively, powerfully. This isn't to say that Clark is above the game or that coaches don't deserve respect. Quite the opposite. It's that respect has to be mutual. And Clark, for all her contributions, was clearly not receiving it from Reeve. So she did what true leaders do. She solved the problem. She didn't rant. She didn't argue. She didn't complain on Twitter. She just made a move. And in doing so, she not only removed a toxic presence from her immediate environment, but also reminded the WNBA that players, especially ones of her caliber, deserve a seat at the table. As for the All-Star game itself, it now carries a weight it never had before. This isn't just an exhibition match. It's a symbolic showdown. Clark, on her home court in Indianapolis, will lead a team coached by someone she respects. On the opposing sideline, Cheryl Reeve, forced to coach against the very player who once would have been under her command. And everyone will be watching. Not just to see who wins, but to see if the WNBA truly understands what just happened. To see if the league learns the right lesson that when a player has the charisma, the talent, and the draw to transform an entire sport, you don't box her in, you don't shut her out, you don't let politics and petty egos get in the way of progress. You hand her the keys and let her drive. Because the truth is simple. Caitlin Clark isn't just playing in the WNBA, she's leading it. And the sooner the league embraces that fact, the brighter its future will be.